My name is Jack Lavin. What inspired me to practice martial arts? I don't know. It was a long time ago when I started, so maybe I was 10 or 12. And so I think, thinking back, I'm sure some of it was just fantasy, kind of want to be a badass and probably Bruce Lee and that sort of thing. My grandmother's Japanese, so I kind of always grew up with a knowledge of Far Eastern arts, Japanese culture, and then also Chinese culture. Um, the martial arts to me from an early age was a path of study that was broad enough to include most of my interests in life. I was very much influenced by martial arts cinema. Yeah, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, definitely. But then even Western martial arts, the King Arthur story, Robin Hood, Three Musketeers. Yeah, to me, these are kind of the modern myths that we have widely accessible for us, and I'm certainly influenced by them. To me, teaching is a practice. My teaching methodology best described by direct experience and practice. So I try not to focus too much on theory at the beginning, and I try to just give enough instruction to have all of us start to experience directly and explore whatever it is we're working on. Right now, I teach at a park near my house, and then also a couple classes at Hawthorne Glen through the Milwaukee Public Rec Department. The style of Tai Chi that I teach is the Cheng Man Ching, Yang style, simplified Tai Chi. My experience with the Cheng Man Ching Tai Chi began here in Milwaukee at the Tai Chi Center of Milwaukee with Mr. Mike Maluski. And I studied with him for almost 10 years, something like that. And in between that time, or during that time, I got to live in Taiwan for a year and study with one of Cheng Man Ching's Taiwanese students. And so I had several teachers over there of the Cheng Man Ching lineage. And then also attended several seminars of some Cheng Man Ching students, specifically this man Ben Lo, who recently passed away, but would come to Milwaukee once a year for a week or so. And he's one of the teachers that I most gravitate towards, his teaching and his style. What are the myths of Tai Chi that I think are currently in our minds today? I think the main one that I'm coming across as a beginning and learning teacher is this assumption, this idea that Tai Chi is something we can practice for 1 hour once a week, sort of thing, and at the same time receive the benefits that it has to give us. And at least from my experience and the tradition I'm a part of, there's really no getting to know what Tai Chi is at all without a lot of practice. And so that's kind of the main thing the main myth that I see that is kind of preventing a real understanding of what Tai Chi is. I think what Tai Chi has to offer, healing, martial, is really determined by the practitioner and also the teacher, but is open enough to change as we change. And so maybe when we're younger, Tai Chi, if we want it to be, we can bloody our noses each time we see each other, if we want. And some people play that way. So Tai Chi isn't really inherently all martial or all healing. It has elements of both, and they're really determined by the practitioner. And the art itself gives something to us, from my perspective, as we change and as we get older. And so it's kind of nice that maybe when we get older and we don't want to fight anymore, we can still practice fully Tai Chi, but the intent is going to be different. And maybe, certainly what we do with our time is going to be different. I mean, again, it's related to this primary myth that Tai Chi is uh, something we can just play with once in a while. If we seek healing, then it's going to ultimately give us that, but that's determined by what we do with our time, what we do with our practice time. It's all about practice. And so, yes, if you want to be good at fighting, you can't just jump rope or lift weights. I mean, you have to fight. And so right now, at my point of practice, I'm not so interested in the fighting. So I don't practice it. So I can't really speak to it because that's not what I'm currently seeking to cultivate the most. If I train in other styles of martial arts, yes. My first martial art experience was a northern style Shaolin Kung Fu, Shaolin Chuan, and that was fun. It was fast. We didn't really hit each other much. So in high school, I started a study of Shotokan karate for about 10 years, which I really enjoyed, especially being younger, because we got to hit each other, but nicely. You know, we didn't go crazy with it. Taught fear. My teacher was really cool. He was a smart man. We began every class in stillness, which is kind of, this is off the subject, a myth about hard styles and soft styles of martial arts. Some people think hard style martial arts is all kicking and screaming and stuff like that. And some people associate Shotokan karate with being one of the hardest styles. And it may be, but I don't know. The school I was a part of, we sat in meditation at the beginning and end of practice. And so to define hard styles not having stillness or not having the softness of just meditation is, from my experience, not true. Shotokan was good. Practiced capoeira for a while, capoeira regional, capoeira Brazil, which was kind of gymnastic-y, but again, it was fast, powerful. Music was involved. Played the birumbao, and practiced a little judo, but then mostly just Tai Chi. So what inspired me to become a teacher? The primary inspiration for me to become a teacher was simply the joy and the benefit that I get from practicing and wanting to share that with other people. Also having the good fortune of experiencing some pretty good teachers in the different arts that I've practiced. So beginning with the Shaolin, but especially my Shotokan teachers, was able to practice at a pretty early age in high school with some people who've been practicing, 40 to 60 years. And so especially as a younger person, to meet people like that was very inspiring. Yeah. And same with capoeira. Got to study with some really good ones from Brazil who practiced every day and practiced a lot. And same thing with the Tai Chi. Here in Milwaukee, Mike Maluski has been teaching and practicing 40-some years, maybe more. And so a lot of these people now, they're starting to get older or they've already passed on. And so I do feel inspired to continue these traditions, these practices. Has a Tai Chi adapted well over these years? That's a challenging one because in a certain sense, yeah, it claims to be, and we seek to practice adaptability. Definitely is a big part of the art, especially part of the martial and the health. It's kind of begins with, hey, where are we at? Okay, there's stuff we can do with where we're at. And where do we want to go? One person wants to become a crazy fighter, the other person wants to become good at calligraphy, and Tai Chi can say, sure, I got something for both of you. But from the traditional perspective, Modern people, at least in America, from my experience, we don't practice as much as the previous generation and then the previous generation. So it's just sort of practical. If you grew up in, 1900s Beijing, and so they had a lot more time on their hands to practice, in part because they didn't have other stuff to do. Um, but we have so many other things to do today that we just don't put in the time. And so it certainly seems like the quality of the art, and at least as what its potential can be, isn't really being met. But that gives me inspiration and hope, because it kind of says that there's a lot more and that it's up to us. If we practice more, then Tai Chi can be more. And so to me, that's kind of liberating. So exercising on the Boulder field is, well, it's fun. Ultimately, this is the answer to every question. I do what I do because I enjoy it. And I don't hold myself to any single sort of exercise. When I'm into something, I'm really gonna hit it hard for a while. But then maybe a year later, I won't want to do it anymore, and I want to do something else with my time and energy. So then I do that, you know. And so it's to understand like the boulder field stuff, the running across it, in the context of Tai Chi. It's just important to know that with Tai Chi, it's more of a practice, at least for me, of general principles that we are meant to apply to as many different experiences as possible. And so I know I'm taking it back to an earlier question about the myths of Tai Chi in society today. And one of them being that it's just this slow moving, really nice form that is most beneficial for older people. That's not true, because Tai Chi is far more about understanding ultimately the best way to do everything. And so it's really just up to the person. How do you want to apply these principles? But the boulder field running is part of a broader idea that I have, and it's just to make the best use of our time and energy, because it is limited for training. And so I'm interested in cultivating practices and spending time and energy doing things that are going to give the broadest range of benefit. Well, for running across a boulder field, I think the main benefit is every other type of running you can think of is relatively easy. And so if you want to improve just road running or sprinting or whatever, if your practice is going to be more challenging than your actual intent, so maybe you want to get good at playing soccer or rugby or football or something like that, which is obviously practiced on a flat surface. But if you train on an uneven surface, especially a surface that could potentially hurt you if you fall, if you manage to not get hurt, then your just basic level of ability to move is taken to a very high level. I'm not sure, I don't know what type of running can make you more agile, bouncy, aware, all of it. The use of tools in my training grew over time, so I don't have any real rational answer as to why I started swinging a sledgehammer around. I'm very interested in functional fitness and spending exercise time cultivating just basic strength and things like that, but more so functional movements, functional strength that I can apply to my daily life right now, but then also potentially in the future, I might have a need to use a sledgehammer in some way. But I have not found another exercise that cultivates some of the things that I want that directly and that quickly. And so the first thing with a hammer, whether you're just holding it or moving it, is grip strength and the forearm and the wrist. And having healthy wrists is just, healthy joints is essential for whatever we want to do. Exercising with the log, I've been doing that for maybe about 10 years now, or maybe longer. I started lifting logs in college when I was playing rugby because weights are good in the gym, but I felt a little confined exercising in the gym. I couldn't really throw stuff around or, you know, yeah, slam something around. And so I thought nature is the best place to do it. But after finished playing rugby, started farming a little bit with a friend of mine. And so we'd be stacking bales of hay, sometimes 200, 300 bales of hay, and you can't stop if it's gonna rain, so you have to just do it. And so to train for that experience, I started carving handholds into logs in part. So one of the things that guides all my training is, first I looked at daily life and I say, what are the most common movements or positions that I'm going to find myself in on a regular basis. And so for my training time, I just think it's smart to train to improve yourself in daily life. My stuff's very simple. It's so that right now I do manual labor. After 8 hours of manual labor, I want to have some energy at the end of the night to do something else. And so for my training time, I want to make it so that it's easier for me to do my job and come home and still have some energy. And so when I was working on this farm, tossing hay bales around, I thought, okay, I better prepare myself for this because I'm going to do that on the weekend. But I don't want to sleep the weekend away. So during the week, I started tossing the log around. It's also related to grappling. You can throw a log around, you're developing explosive strength. One of my intents for the type of training that I do, the crawling on the boulder field, tossing logs, running across a boulder field, is that I want my system to be adaptable enough where if I wanted to, I could take a gymnastics class and in a couple months or whatever, do some pretty cool stuff. And so that's also my intent for teaching other people as well. I try to teach just to improve our baseline abilities. And so the classes, I keep them quite simple so that it's up to each person. What do you want to do? Then you go take a boxing class and in half a year, okay, you have some pretty good power or something like that. So the advice I give to someone starting their martial arts journey is to just do it. That's a simple one. Nike had it right. But yeah, ultimately do something every day. Do something every day. And I know just looking back at my journey, and I feel like I'm just beginning, I've gone through many different periods. So sometimes I won't veer at all from what a teacher has said for years, and that's the only thing I'll practice with the little practice time I have. At other times, I think it's good to let yourself follow something else, be creative and try something out, But I think just, if you can, it's all the same old stuff. Commitment, perseverance, these things, take your time. Be gentle with yourself, but, push yourself, but just keep at it. I think the best advice is a little bit every day is more beneficial ultimately than a lot once a week. There is a few things I'd like to mention. Okay, great. Which kind of describe a little bit why I do the exercises that I do and what influences my training. And I've mentioned it before. I think it's good that we look to our daily life and find movements or positions that we're going to do regularly. So if we sit at a desk, it's not ideal for the human, but I would spend some time every day, if I was a desk worker, cultivating, sitting in stillness to improve that. But the other thing I like to touch on is exercising, especially on a boulder field. You can get injured, or crawling, or lifting some pretty heavy stuff. You can get injured. And the ideal is not to get injured. But I have found that injury over the years has greatly influenced what I do. In college, I played a lot of rugby and got quite a few concussions. And so that led me to seek out, yes, softer martial arts that don't bang the head too much. If someone wants to fight and play that way, then they're going to. But the point may come where we recognize, hey, I don't want to do that to my brain cells anymore. And so we're going to find something else. And you're going to look at different arts. And for me, that's kind of how I went to Tai Chi, actually. It was brain health, lots of concussions, and then also just banged up the body and joints. And so the ideal is not to become injured, but for me and my attitude towards training, everything is included, even an injury. And so I think when we get injured, we might not be able to move around so much, but maybe we can spend more time in stillness and see stillness as part of our fitness program, which I think is greatly lacking maybe in today's world, especially with the people who like to play hard. I think those people, okay, that's good, but you got to balance out that fire with a little soft, and actually you will become stronger, faster, more powerful,